Welcome to episode 24 of Rebels Without a Pod, the show that dares ask the question, if there are two robots and a hologram alone in a dingy apartment and no one's around, do they bang? My name is John.
It's a fair
Joining
question.
me tonight, Andy, who does our artwork and graphic design.
Hey, everybody.
Being on music and audio production.
Hello.
And Pod Daddy Eric, a.k.a. A-Cup Conquest.
Awooga!
Nice.
No movie for this week. Tonight we'll be doing another installment of Reb Talks, our semi-educational format where two of the hosts present a presentation and follow-up discussion on a topic of their choosing. Andy will be presenting first on the brief history of the rise and fall of Saturday morning cartoons in the United States. Then I will be giving a short screenwriting lecture focusing on 3-act movie structure, following which the other Rebels will take a short quiz on the films we've covered up to this point. But first, gentlemen, how's everyone doing? Any announcements, corrections, coercions?
Yeah, everything's all good here.
Yeah.
All good. Nothing to add.
I've got nothing.
Nothing to add.
It's a first for today.
That's first for today. You don't want to shout out the amazing 3.5-hour recording session, Eric, that we had Sunday
Is this
night.
my coercion? I'm coercing people?
This is cross promotion.
Yeah, I like that's some slight cross-pollination too. We recorded the other night. I don't want to go into the whole story of it. It was very late. I've been sick. I took advantage of like mid-afternoon naps. And so I powered through it.
Right.
And we came up with some really fucked up stuff. So I'm excited.
This fucked up stuff is in episode number 2 of Cunny of the Goose. We cover a few different topics. It did become sort of a blur at a certain point, but we covered 2 indie video games we kind of gave ourselves to play and review. We also talked about kind of episode format. We talked more generally about just playing video games in like our 40s and what we have kind of like the time and attention and energy for. We also covered more than I would have expected on RFK Jr. and contaminated bear meat, a not unsubstantial part of that recording.
How quickly do you want to get this shut down? You realize he's a Kennedy, right? Kennedys don't mess around.
Right. In view of everything we've said on this pod so far, I feel we're kind of at a point we need to try harder.
I mean, okay. Well, let me ask the guys. Do you guys know RFK Jr.'s voice?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's iconic right now,
It's
right?
crazy.
So
I had no clue.
It is crazy.
Whatsoever.
John had no idea.
Right.
I was trying to explain to him. I don't know the real reason. He had like vocal cord surgery or something like that. He had some operation done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why people don't kind of like touch that at this point. But I kind of like went all in. And it was mostly because my voice was all like garbled because I was sick. And I think I did a pretty good job.
It was incredible.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could share it now, but I feel like I'm kind of, I don't want to spoil you guys.
We don't want to step on the toes of, like too much content. Just listen to like on our parallel feed. Listen to Cunny of the Goose episode 2, discussions of indie games and usual findings and Botanicola. And I think you like gaming, you like RFK, like bear meat. Just general kind of speculation about just where may that cub actually be buried in Central Park.
Could I just call in to like get more John?
Yeah.
Is that not an option? all forms and types of Johns are welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I also, if we have nothing else here, I want to jump into like what we've been up to, because I was watching, we discussed this the other night. I recommended to you the manga Uzumaki by Junji Ito. And it's one of my favorites. It's and
here it
love
is.
I love it.
Look at this tome.
The mini
this
tome.
Old Testament of a production.
Oh wow, it's blinding me. It's so beautiful.
There's 27 pages total in this thing.
God, I want to say it's been maybe now about 5 years they've been working on the project for making an animation out of it. And what they did is they started working on it and I guess the director of the project, he had to like take a break. I mean, COVID for obvious reasons, but he felt like the animation wasn't good enough, like to do justice to Junji Ito's work. He wanted it to be like Junji Ito's like comic was coming to life in front of you. And if you watch it, which they just put out the first episode the other night on Adult Swim and on Max, it's beautiful.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning.
I was really impressed. I love the music too. I forget the guy's name that does the soundtrack. He's a famous saxophone player.
Oh, really?
But he does. He's started to do more music for like movie soundtracks, and it's just a really haunting sound that just builds with like the whole atmosphere of that world. So I was blown away because it's also the Uzumaki is a bunch of short stories about this one town. And so whoever wrote the first episode, it's like a combination, maybe like three of the different like standalone stories, and just is awesome.
So the history of like kind of Junji Ito, like in the States, was he famous in Japan for a really long time, or was this a guy who's kind of come to prominence like relatively recent?
I don't think he was huge in Japan. I think people, I mean, ask my wife, her friends, anybody I've met, nobody really knows. These are Japanese people. Nobody really knows who he is. If you go to like some niche like bookstores, which I like to do when I'm in Japan, you'll find like all his works there. But it blew up in the States because of just his weird, fucked up like artwork. Even
and the fact there was like there was a pretty popular and successful Netflix series over that kind of came out.
There was
not. I remember kind of not being sort of like knocked out by it by my girlfriend, who was a huge fan of kind of Junji Ito. She got about through like kind of half the series and just this is nowhere near as kind of good as books.
Yeah, none of that's new content. That's all taken from short stories that he's previously put out, which I just feel like when you're reading his manga, I mean, it's a very simple artwork style. And so what he does is just the best thing about his work is you just don't expect these horrific scenes or these horrific characters. And when it builds up to that scene, it just comes out of nowhere. And it's just like, maybe like a splash page where
storytelling, and also this huge splash page is something completely insane that
you're usually reading. I mean, you're watching, the anime or something, maybe in your living room, there's stuff going on around you. For his manga, if you're just like by yourself reading it, like in a room, it's quiet, maybe listening to some music, that's where it's just like, you feel like you just discovered something and you look around and you're like, what the fuck is this? And it just like Uzumaki, I got that from the library. I think I mentioned it was like a recommendation on Onion AV Club. And so I'm reading it. I'm like, this is kind of boring. Nothing's really going on. And it keeps talking about spirals. And then
literally the concept, at least at the start of the book, is there's a small Japanese mountain town that suddenly becomes haunted by spirals.
Everybody's obsessed with spirals. We can't talk it up. It's such a weird concept. You can't really talk it up. You have to experience it for yourself. So that's all I'm going to give you. I don't want to give any spoilers. If you want to treat yourself for Halloween, I'm treating John by making this recommendation because I know he wouldn't read it otherwise. So the fact you got the manga, pat on my back.
Right. Should we read it or should we just watch the show?
I would read it if okay. Knowing you, I would probably say watch the show. I don't think the punches will hit as hard, but
there's only a single there's only a single episode. The pilot's out right now. Take a look at it. If it's something that is just kind of intriguing to you, Andy, I know you're a bit less of a horror fan like the rest of us, but you are a very talented artist, and just the art and originality of the cartoon, which is so reflective of just how deeply strange and unique his own artwork is, how just amazingly talented like this artist is. Maybe there's an angle there that'll be like interesting.
There's also no anime boobs, if that was kind of like a driver for you.
Well, and I don't know how to read, so that'd be literally the only reason I would be in there is to look for that.
Right.
I mean, if you did watch just one episode, or even just looked at the pictures online for his artwork, and you came up with something on your own, that would blow me away.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a challenge, but I'm just saying it.
Sounds like a bit of
that
sounds exactly like a challenge.
I'm taking notes.
Oh.
Don't be a bitch. Okay, got it.
You're gonna go back later and look at your notes, and you'll be like, "Shit, what was that? What was that for?"
What did that mean?
This is fundamentally Worcester against Shrewsbury energy at the end of the day. We're finally past it.
You know what, Andy? It doesn't matter the context. It's just good life advice.
Got it.
So thank you for that. So the jumping off point for me picking up this manga was that Eric and I on like the latest Cunny did another indie video game trade. The title that he's asked me to play for like the upcoming episode draws. It's a game called World of Terror that draws very kind of strong inspiration from kind of Japanese horror manga, specifically kind of Junji Ito. He added as a supplemental thing to that, you should try to go out and find the Uzumaki manga because I think it's interesting. And then as a supplemental thing to that, we found out, literally this week, the first episode of this Adult Swim anime is like also come out. So look for more conversation on that on the Cunny feed. Andy, you said you had like a little something you wanted to shout out as well for what you've been watching.
Yeah, so I went to see Beetlejuice on Saturday night and was just utterly delighted by the entirety of it. I mean, seeing those characters.
Family version, or something you just kind of just you and the wife?
It was so Charlie did not go. He was exhausted from work after working 3 whole hours. So yeah, right. So yeah, just Anna, Hillary, and myself went, and all 3 of us just absolutely adored it. Seeing those characters on the screen again was fantastic. Michael Keaton jumps right back into it as if not a moment has passed.
When in fact 3.5 decades have gone by.
Yep. Catherine O'Hara is just wonderful. I love that I love that they killed off the pedophile dad. I thought that was great.
Really kind of egregious way. Like they spent a while on how badly sort of just all the bad shit that happened to Jeffrey Jones off camera, like the interview.
Yeah. No, I mean that dude did some nasty things, and the way that they handled him in the movie, I thought was really smart. Right. And did him didn't do anything for him. Did him no justice or anything in real life. It just allowed his character to be played out in that world, which was really cool. It wasn't just like they killed him off and that was it.
Was there a post-credit scene with like Howard the Duck?
There was no post-credit scene with Howard the Duck, which is a shame.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it could. He was in everything back then. He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was
absolutely.
Everything.
He was. Yeah, seriously.
Other Tim Burton projects, Ed Wood, he had like pretty significant part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was delightful. I mean, Jenna Ortega was great. I don't have enough nice things to say about it. I just go see it. If you even, in fact, Anna hadn't actually seen the first one all the way through.
Okay.
And she still was, wanted to see it, was dying to see it, and loved it. And while about halfway through the movie, she turns to me and she goes, "Can we go home and watch the first one after this that night?" I was like, "Well, It's going to be too late, but yes, we can definitely watch that movie. I would be more than happy to sit down and watch that with you." So
that's awesome.
Anyway, very cool.
Yeah. Quick question: do you have an Amazon Echo?
I do not.
You do not? What about you, Naveen?
Yeah.
Okay. Next time you're talking to Alexa, just say, "Alexa, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice."
Mm-hmm.
I'm
dead serious. I'm dead serious. This is a real thing. We programmed it. What it happens is Alexa goes, and it's a really choppy, shitty voice. She goes, "Oh no, you've released him. No." And then it just has a bunch of random like one-liners from the movie. And so now every time we ask for stuff, like we're like, okay, Alexa, what's the weather? You hear like, like something from the movie. And then
so Beetlejuice actually permanently haunts your Alexa. Like
he does until you deprogram her. Also, you can ask for Beetlejuice jokes.
Nice.
That's amazing.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I don't remember offhand. They're all kind of like goofy ones. The thing is, if you keep telling me a joke, she'll keep saying the same one. So you have to say like one more, please, or like a different one, or like So you should do it. It's still stuck on my Alexa. I can't take it off at this point. So I think I'm just gonna unplug it.
What if it was the kind of thing where you had to actually buy a ticket to see the movie to get like the unlock code hidden somewhere in the film? That would be some cross-pollination.
That would. That definitely would.
Yeah. Okay, well, Andy, thank you for that. I wanted to shout out finally a horror movie I went to a few nights ago called The Substance. This is a body horror film by a French filmmaker named Coralie Farge, and it stars Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. And it's for me, this has kind of been like an early kind of sleeper Halloween hit, like over the past few weeks. And for this year, it's been one of the most fun movies like I've kind of seen like just like another year. It's just outside my top 5 right now. So this flick is basically a body horror film. Demi Moore plays a kind of like a 50-something exercise instructor who has her own kind of weekly TV show. I think that Jane Fonda is supposed to be kind of like the touchstone there. And because she's in her 50s, finally the TV executive played in like a really sort of great creepy turn by Dennis Quaid decides, okay, we've had this old woman on like the air for kind of far too long. We need to fire her and kind of put in someone kind of just young and sexy. So Demi Moore kind of like through like a series of events ends up taking this experimental medication called The Substance. It's sort of kind of distributed by like this shady company. The drug basically kind of shows up in what's supposed to be like kind of like this giant iPhone box. You open it up and there's all these pieces of paper with sort of kind of big, sort of kind of large print, kind of bold text instructions on how to use all the different shit that's kind of stuffed in the box. Like there's syringes and tubing and needles and threads and kind of like kind of like saline packets and everything else. Basically, the concept of this drug, The Substance, is you inject yourself and a clone of yourself that's about 40 years younger pops out of your back. And then going forward, basically, you're two people, you're two different people, but the movie and the drug keeps telling you you're the same person. You say this, you share the same consciousness, the same mind. Going forward, after you take the substance, you live for about 7 days as the old original you, and then you get to live 7 days as the hot, sexy, young new you, while your old body is basically kind of in a coma and is being kind of like this, kind of sustained by like these saline packets that you have to kind of hook up. So the clone of Demi Moore, played by Margaret Qualley, she gets her 7 days. She kind of goes out into the world. She ends up booking because she's just young and cool and sexy and hot. She ends up booking the TV show that Demi Moore actually that was sort of fired from. She becomes like this kind of like cover model and sort of popular ingenue and it just gets all these fans and starts kind of just dating like these hot guys and everything else. The core challenge for like therapists in the movie is basically that if you spend more than 7 days in like the young body, the old body starts to decay in certain kind of ways. Like the longer that you kind of spend in like the young body over like the 7 day window, like the more kind of irreversible kind of decay happens to the old body. So like the assumption is if you keep on going 7 days on, 7 days off, 7 days on, 7 days off, everything is fine. But over the course of the movie, that arrangement, that consistently kind of starts kind of flying.
Dude, you got some weird fucked up dreams.
Yeah.
I think you need a therapist. It's funny because it's all I keep hearing is people walking out of theaters.
Mhm.
It's like grotesque. There's just like I guess I don't know. I guess people are comparing it to maybe like David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future.
Cronenberg's like the real big touch point, but also like a bit of David Lynch, also like even kind of like a bit kind of Verhoeven. Like I was listening to like an interview with like director. She said actually RoboCop and Total Recall were sort of kind of two sort of big touch.
Oh, really? Okay.
This movie. The first 2 hours are funny and yeah. This is a 2.5 hour movie. Kind of fair warning on that.
Dear Lord,
lazy by.
Sounds like a podcast.
It's a wonderful set. The first 2 hours are kind of just they're more kind of Lynchian and suspenseful, and you see Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. They kind of like the young and old versions of themselves. They kind of exist in symbiosis at first, but then they kind of, because this is fundamentally like an awful person who would be willing to do themselves to begin with. They sort of kind of start pulling off like in other in kind of like opposite directions. It becomes more kind of tense, like a little bit kind of Hitchcockian. That's the first 2 hours. The final 30 minutes of this film is some of the grossest and funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. I saw it like on Tuesday night, a pretty packed theater for like a 6 o'clock showing. Sitting right behind me was like a full row of teenage girls. The last 30 minutes of this movie, I am grinning ear to ear while just all the girls behind me were just consistently screaming. It's so much fun. It's so completely original. It starts at a 10 for craziness and ends at like a 13.5.
This is like a day one purchase for you, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Can somebody who doesn't like horror, myself, enjoy
Absolutely. This? Yeah. This doesn't have. I mean, there is.
Don't do it, man. Don't look at your notes.
So,
don't look at the note that says, "Don't be a bitch." Be a bitch. Be a bitch for this. You don't
warning,
need this.
Okay, so fair warning. There is like the last 30 minutes are kind of. Imagine kind of like all the kind of like the gross out sort of practical effects in like The Thing, but with a much kind of a lighter kind of comedic tone. You gotta get part of it. The first 2 hours of the movie, there is a lot of nudity. There is just
is it Demi Moore nudity?
And Demi just looks actually pretty remarkable. She's supposed to be 50 in the film. She's actually 61 in real life. Got to get together like pretty well. Yeah. It's right. Like the performances are very like both women are naked a lot of times. It's very physical performances. They're kind of running around and screaming or just kind of lying like in comas like on the bathroom floor or like whatever else. So just for content, kind of fair warning on there. But it's not, if you're squeamish for like the violent or mean, like with like the really violent or really kind of mean spirited parts of horror, this is not a movie that I think will kind of give you too much trouble.
I think if you've seen like The Birth of a Child, then you could handle this. Twice.
That
0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Right. That's 2 times too much.
John, the last half hour, it's a blur. So
Well,
much blood.
girls behind you
It's a
screaming.
blur.
Yeah, lots
Start
of
singing
teenage girls.
Screaming purple alien faces.
Yeah, it's not good.
So just highest recommend for me. That's The Substance.
Nice.
All right.
So let's move on to the next section. This will be kind of like a fairly quick one. We have Everyone's a Critic, where we want to talk. This when the show started, we didn't quite know what the format was. We kind of fell backwards into like the movie review thing because that seemed like an easy and kind of like obvious sort of jumping off point for us. But we did initially have some conversation. Why don't we talk a little bit of music on the show as well? Back in episode 21, while Andy and Eric were away, Naveen and I reviewed 2 albums that they recommended. For Eric, it was Sigur Ros's album, The Vaker. I'm probably completely butchering like the Icelandic pronunciation there. And for Andy's recommendation, it was Chris Cornell's final album, a solo project called Higher Truth, I believe. So Naveen and I both kind of gave like those albums a shot, and then kind of we discussed them back on episode 21. Naveen, you want to talk like a little bit to how you felt about those two albums?
I mean, they're pretty good, but they weren't anything that I was really into. I'd have to say I did go back to listening to some of their other albums, both from Chris Cornell and Sigur Rós, and I would say that so far with Sigur Rós, the one Eric recommended is definitely the better one.
Oh wow, okay.
I really like
the one that he recommended for the show.
For the show, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was definitely better than their like previous albums. And I remember like that first track on it. It was like I thought it was a banger. I was like it just it really just kicks off that album. It's like all right, and then it kind of slowed down for me and
oh hell no,
mellowed out.
Here's the funny thing, right? I mean, I'll talk about my takeaways about it in a second, but for me, that album's a masterpiece. It personally is. And I mean, compared to the older stuff, I agree. They took more risks here. They had some different band members that introduced something
it's a bit
different.
Heavier, which is like
it also has, it's like some rock, but also like some shoegaze and then like some Tom York type of like whining vocals. You either love it or you hate it. But the thing that I love about Sigur Rós in general is I never thought I would like them. The first album I got from them was called the one with the running naked dudes, Med Sudi. I wrote it down. Iram Vip Spillum and the Lost. It doesn't matter.
He was trying to kick out of his house.
The point is, it's like when I first got that album, I only knew a couple songs that I had heard on the radio on some indie station. And I was like, okay, they're cool. They're really kind of like upbeat. They do something different, has a weird, overlapping instrumentals and creates this unique sound. And the vocals don't make sense, but you just kind of fill them in your head however you want to. And then a couple of years went by and I was like super stressed out at work. I was working like 50, 60 hours a week at some warehouse job in Central Mass. And
put in those Charlie hours.
Dude, I was Charlie hours. I was at that point in my life. That's like right after college kind of thing where it's like you're desperate for money, so you're just taking any hours you can. I had just come back from Japan also, so it's like all my savings were gone. I had spent all the money I had left, like for getting a car and then like buying furniture for my apartment. My wife just moved in with me at the time. She had quit her job. She really didn't have much, so it was like so much shit going on at that point. I also too, we talked about this earlier. I wanted to be like a children's author. I had some books under my belt. I wanted to get out there. I was sending out letters, like introduction letters and to different publishers and hearing nothing. And I was just so many emotions. And I've never seen a therapist before. I've never needed to really. I felt like I could handle stuff on my own. But I re-listened to the album again because I'd just be listening to music in my headphones all the time while I'm working. And I don't know, it hit me so different when it was just like I was exhausted. I was desperate. I was scared of like what was happening with life, but I was like, ambitious. My wife was losing her mind, and all those things mixing with the music just created some unique thing in my head where it just like it clicked. And I mean, the words didn't make any sense to me, but again, like I said, it's you make it what you want it to be. And that's a big thing for me. When I listen to music, I listen to the music itself. The lyrics is like the last thing I care about. Because the music is my own when I'm listening to it. So I'm just creating whatever I want. And it changes constantly depending on whatever I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's kind of like my therapy. And like when I put on that album the other day to listen to it, like the first song, that's the one I listened to the least, by the way. The second song, it has kind of like Game of Thrones vibes. And that one, I feel like sad, like not sad, like I want to kill myself, but like sad, but like hopeful. Just so many emotions.
There's a sweet melancholy.
Yeah, it hits me so strong. It's like part of a cult or something. And it's like they play that music, and then I just kind of like perk up, and they just tell me to do whatever. Go work in the warehouse.
Well, I think kind of what's interesting about Sigur Rós for like the older stuff compared to like the album you recommended to Naveen and I was that I believe that's the first one they actually recorded in their native Icelandic. I think every previous Sigur Rós album, including like their relatively kind of well-known and famous one called Talk, was actually all sung in like a made-up kind of a Elvish language of theirs. I think it actually
like all of them are.
Right.
Can you really tell the difference?
So at least for like Kveikr,
I'm not testing you.
You can get translations. You can get translations.
No, you failed.
Of the songs. The other one, the Hopelandic ones, it's kind of more what you described. Like there's lyrics, there's ideas, and there's emotions, but it doesn't directly. It's a nonsense language. It doesn't.
You hear like I think of like Minions or something like that. It's like a combination of different languages, and then you hear some English too. So you're like, oh, I got that word.
Right.
He said, but I don't know.
These guys in Iceland, they really like banana.
Banana. Do you want to hear my takeaways from that episode?
Let's
hear it, Andy. I want to hear what Andy has to say.
And I kind of get through good. Just
okay.
Kveikr for me, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but kind of what Eric's describing, like it's kind of for lyrics, it's the opposite thing for me. It's the first thing I listen to in the song. It's the first thing I think about, and it's the thing that really that gets me or doesn't get me for the artist. Kveikr, I thought it was cool. It was like I had given Sigur Rós like a run a couple times before and couldn't quite land on it. I thought the song's really cool. The thing that really sort of struck me was the just how interesting the live performances I was able to find on YouTube for that album. Like those live performances, like even if like the album itself, it's not something that you necessarily immediately vibe with. That looks like a really, really good band to see actually like a concert.
I saw them Boston. I mentioned before it was like anniversary show. I don't know how many years, maybe 15 or 20 years. Mm-hmm. And what they did is they just pulled from their entire back catalog, and it was oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't a 2-night event. It was a 1-night event, but it was just like the first half of the show was all old stuff, like probably like pre-2000 and like 7 or something like that. And so it's very slow, long drawn out tracks. Like you said, you see a live show that's like the band's playing, like they have huge band out there accompanying all the different unique sounds that they bring to their music. But the show I saw, they had it was like a bunch of light bulbs hanging down, like hundreds of light bulbs hanging down. And as they're playing the music, certain light bulbs would light up when certain notes were hit.
Like at least like the one live track I saw on YouTube when I was like listening to that.
Yeah, so it was. I don't want to compare it to like Blue Man Group, but it was. it was an experience that you should see when you go to Boston.
I absolutely agree. All right, so that for Naveen and I, that was Kveikr. I think it was still kind of like the same kind of more or less kind of same page of like kind of was interesting. I personally had like a bit of just like hard time to kind of grasp on specifics, but it did make me kind of just curious about seeing the band live. Certainly made me curious to kind of go to Iceland at some point. And I believe you're the only one out of like the 4 of us that's actually spent any time out there. And I recall you sort of kind of praising like the experience.
Everybody should go if they have the ability. They should go. It's fantastic, and it's like being in a completely. It's another planet.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely worth the trip.
So that was Sigur Rós, and we also listened to Higher Truth by Chris Cornell. Naveen, thoughts on that album?
Yeah, actually just going back real quick to something Eric said about Sigur Rós, and I think we mentioned it in the pod as well, and that kind of goes the same with the Chris Cornell album. I think maybe I mentioned something like maybe I was younger, but I listened to it in the past when some of those emotions you mentioned yourself that you were going through all these emotions and it hit you that way. And I think I mentioned that if I had listened to it younger in a different state of mind, I probably would have, it probably would hit me in a different way. And I think the same thing with the Chris Cornell, like it was, he's got good lyrics and good songwriting, and it was fun to listen to, but it's probably something I I will never go back to. It wasn't like anything that hit me as all right, this is awesome and really great. But there's some cool tracks on there and things. And then the same thing, I did go back because I never really listened to his previous albums, not even the first one.
Euphoria Morning is kind of considered like the standard bearer out of the solo stuff.
Right. And I mean, I listened to that one too, and I'm just like, eh.
Did you go back and listen to Scream because you thought it was a Michael Jackson album?
Yeah, I did. And when I didn't hear Michael Jackson and Janet on it, I turned it off.
The Chris Cornell solo album, co-produced by Timbaland, that was so bad it got Soundgarden back together. That's an astounding legacy. For me, Higher Truth and Chris Cornell is a hugely important artist to me. Just a lifetime favorite from high school, like all the way up still like to an adulthood. I thought Higher Learning was very beautifully sung. This guy I remarked on the pod could make an album of him singing the phone book and like it would still be compelling. I respected like the fact that the production, the instrumentation was kind of pretty stripped down for like the album itself. I think some part of that was them being very deliberate in not wanting to do Scream again, not wanting to invite like any of those comparisons. The thing that lost me for the Higher Truth album was I thought like a lot of the lyric writing was really bland and really just kind of uninteresting. There was a couple tracks in there I liked. I think just Josephine was kind of a sweet track. I like for like the extra tracks on the album, Bend of the Road was pretty good. I think Naveen, you would shout it up, Murder of the Blue Sky is like a pretty decent album. But this the lyric writing generally I thought was kind of flat, repetitive, uninteresting, and this coming from a not just a generationally great rock singer, but I personally feel like a generationally great rock lyricist. Not that part of the album just kind of lost it. So
I got to tell you, I was so smug when I suggested that album to you guys. I was like, this is a slam dunk, walk in the park. Eric, they're gonna hate Eric's Sigur Rós thing, and they're gonna love mine.
Don't worry, that didn't change.
Whatever this mushroom wizard bullshit is.
Yeah, whatever this elvish, Icelandic, York wannabe bullshit is. No, I thought for sure that you guys were gonna love it, and I was totally wrong. What I will say, kind of to Naveen's point, and I guess Eric's as well, the very first time I heard that album was, like maybe the day of or the day after Chris Cornell's death.
Oh, wow.
So like to me, those two things are inextricably linked forever. So I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I loved it so much. I mean, I'm going to blank on the name of the song, but there's a song on there that he's clearly singing to his daughter.
Yep.
And, just little things like that just sort of made me kind of go like, oh man, like,
who is this thief in the dark? Just a little girl that broke my heart.
The fact that he's gone, in that moment, I'm listening to this music that I had never heard before by this guy who I love. I mean, Soundgarden is one of the most important bands in my life, bar none. I mean, it's top 10 for sure. And we're never going to hear his voice again. Like, I don't know. That was just, I think, putting it all together into the same sort of hearing it all at that time and everything that was going on. It was the first, it's weird. I don't typically get super bummed out by celebrity deaths. They're not, I mean, they're people, and it's like, to me, this guy dying is the same as any other person dying. Like, it's sad for their families, but it doesn't really impact my life.
You texted us yesterday and like losing Chris Christopherson has just left me on the floor.
Yeah, no, I R.I.P. Chris Christopherson. I know he wrote some amazing stuff. I'm sure the Christopherson family is in mourning today, and genuinely, I feel bad for them. That's a sucky thing to have to go through. At the same time, it doesn't impact me. I mean, I don't feel a sense of loss. But when Chris Cornell passed away, for some reason, that one just was like a knife to the gut for me. It just
that was a heavy one for any bands of kind of rock music or our age, especially.
Yeah, that one really hurt for some reason, and I feel almost silly saying that because I never met the guy. I never even saw him live. Never had the I did have the opportunity, and I passed, which was stupid. It was on a school night, quote unquote, work night. And Naveen and I both decided to not go, and we absolutely.
Oh, was this the show with Coheed?
Yes, in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
And I should have gone, and I didn't. It was on like a Tuesday night or something like that, and I just was like, I can't make that work. I should have gone. But anyway, regardless, I walked into that one thinking you guys were just gonna love it, and man, did you pull the rug out from underneath me on that one.
Sorry, dude. We're just trying to give like honest feedback here.
Hey, it is what it is.
I was listening to it. I was just glad it wasn't my album. They started pretty strong. I have a list of takeaways from that episode. It hurt pretty early on, but I wanted to share this with you. Here's my list of takeaways. Okay.
All right.
2 cigar no's.
Nice.
Even Icelandic people don't understand Jonesy's magical 3-legged unicorn language. Game of Thrones wants their theme song back. Chris Cornell's last album was a dumpster fire full of evil exes that were bad motor-fingered. Let's see. Naveen is not cool with Chris. Maybe if Naveen had returned Chris's calls, we'd still have 2 male lead vocalists in Linkin Park. And after the album Scream, produced with Timberland, Cornell should have walked the streets of Japan till he got lost, because it doesn't remind John of anything.
Wow. Impressive.
Just
tip of the cap.
You could have stopped at 2 cigar no's, and that's it.
Yeah, that would
have been enough for you.
Yeah.
That was
I had
not
to keep
throwing
going.
you hit oil.
That last one was for John. I had to make it all the way through.
Right.
It was well played, sir.
I wanna like just talk about like a brief thing for that I forgot to mention when we're talking kind of Chris, like in the last podcast. I was this just similar to what Andy said, that was a really kind of surprising, sort of devastating thing, because for rock stars our generation, we had already lost Kurt, we had already lost Wayne, we had already lost Scott. Chris Cornell is just not one of the I kind of like saw kind of come down the pipeline, and this as important as these other sort of kind of dying tragically young kind of 90s rock star artists were, like that was a very big deal to me. When he passed, I was living in New York at the time, kind of going to shows like pretty regularly. That following weekend at this little wonderful music venue in like the Lower East Side called Arlene's Grocery, a kind of cadre of kind of like local New York musicians arranged this kind of impromptu Chris Cornell tribute show, and the owners of the venue announced all the profits, all the money that we make tonight, it's going to be going to a local New York sort of suicide prevention center. So I ended up going to like that show like on Saturday night. It ran like 4.5 hours, I want to say, and they had they were covering a lot of Soundgarden stuff, a lot of Chris Cornell solo stuff, but also things out of Audio Slave, also things out of like kind of Temple of the Dog. Also it was a show by the fans, like for the fans, one of just like a top music experience when I was like living in New York. The best guy I saw perform out of like, because every song was a different singer, different set of backing musicians. The absolute best guy that I saw looked like Chris Cornell, dressed like Chris Cornell, sang and sounded like Chris Cornell, and was also blind. He got up on stage for the first time, and he was like, "Yeah, this is this. I didn't quite know what to do with my life. And was growing up, I found kind of Chris Cornell one day, and I went to music school because of him. And it in a very weird way, it was just like this weird blind doppelganger of Chris was just kind of right on stage, and just kind of felt he was kind of right back there the entire time. I say this show was a show kind of by the fans, for the fans, because it just like the song selections and the obscurity of the tracks got more and more kind of specific and more exciting as like the night went on. They ended the show with the best musicians of the group playing and the blind guy singing the final track off of Super Unknown, Like Suicide. Which is a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Which is a little on the nose, but also for my money, maybe the best Soundgarden song of all time.
Okay. Oh wow!
And
that's a bold statement.
Everybody,
exactly, yeah, that's a whole episode.
Everybody lost their mind. Just tore the roof off the place.
I would have been like, "Boo! Play Spoon Man."
Where's my wave?
Yeah, hey, over here. Right, this guy.
I love My Wave. That's one of my favorite songs.
My Wave is a great song.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Great song.
Right. I mean,
I quick shout out to the best cover, I guess you want to call it, that I've ever heard of Soundgarden was when Brandi Carlile sang with the remaining original members of Soundgarden. I don't know if you guys have ever heard her sing. So first of all, are you guys familiar with Brandi Carlile at all?
No.
A little bit.
Okay. So Brandi Carlile is is kind of a folksy roots rock kind of belter singing chick, and she's amazing. I mean, you want to talk about a voice. That lady has got pipes on her like you would not believe. Number one, she also is a major, massive, huge fan of 90s grunge music and specifically of Soundgarden. And I think, if I've got this right, I may have this wrong, but I think she's friends with Matt Cameron. I think they might be buddies kind of outside of things. And I know that she's also friends with Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. But anyway, she gets on stage and does, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 songs with the remaining band members. And for my money, there is nobody that has sung Soundgarden songs better than her, other than Chris Cornell.
Right. And that's not small praise, because Cornell was a master technician, 4+ octave vocal range.
Yeah.
Those songs are very, very tough.
And I got to say, I don't know what her range is, but she hits every note. She's phenomenal. So if you get the opportunity to find it on YouTube, I don't think they ever recorded or anything like that, but go on YouTube and look it up. Very, very worth checking out. She's amazing.
Check that out.
She's amazing. Even if you don't like her music, her own music, if you like Soundgarden and you want to see somebody who loves Soundgarden do the very best she can to live up to the people that were doing it before her, the guy that was doing it before her, give it a check.
Yeah, about Brandi Carlile, I honestly really know nothing about. She sounds like the kind of artist that would have popped out of Shania Twain after she took the substance. But
yes, but you know what though? I'll say this. I will say this again. Her music is not really my style. I also am not. I've mentioned this before. I'm not a huge fan of female vocalists. I'm just not. You can throw rocks at me if you want. It's just my thing. But I could listen to her. You want to talk about somebody who could sing the phone book? I could listen to her sing the phone book and be perfectly happy forever.
I was going to say, thank God I changed my my choice for my album I was going to recommend for Rebel Yell.
Uh-oh.
It was all female vocalist.
I mean,
the whole album, every song, and she just didn't let up. So maybe I'll save that one for you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I would love to be convinced otherwise. Believe me, I would love to. I all of my favorite bands in history, all fronted by men.
All right.
This is what it is.
All right, well, so that's actually like a good transition, actually. So ahead of that, after Naveen and I recorded episode 21, we kind of, we all kind of started talking a little bit, and we decided maybe it would be a good idea to kind of do an album swap where all 4 of us present albums for like the other 3 to listen to, and we make just like a whole just everybody on deck episode of just having kind of one of these conversations. So we at the moment we decided to call that episode format Rebels Yell. If anybody has a better idea at any point, like, I'm not going to really get him. I'm not the most proud of that one.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
All I think about is that story you told me a million times about you watching like Power Rangers episodes on like a VHS tape, and they kept playing Rebel Yell for Billy Idol.
It wasn't Power Rangers. It was the original Japanese show that got dubbed over by about half of like the original lineup.
Zetaman? What is it?
Dynaman.
Dynaman. Thank you, Dynaman.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do Dynaman for Rip Talk.
And there's like explosions and dinosaurs.
So good. Okay. What are we going to like get into with that? I'm just thinking about Dynaman now. I'm probably going to watch that like after the show's done. Album picks, episode 27. We have our first iteration of Rebels Yell, and I believe like 4 of us have picked albums for like the other 3 to listen to, and these are
a bad idea. This is a bad idea, guys. Andy, you and me were teaming up.
Bad idea, dude.
Enough of this bullshit.
Yep.
The redemption arc.
You ask us to bare our souls choosing albums.
Right.
And then you just drop your pants and take a hot steaming pile on.
Shame on us. Shame on us. So should we name them?
You know, we don't want a Chris Farley thing. We don't want to be all just kind of nodding at each other and be like, that was awesome.
Remember that time? Remember when you did that thing? That was awesome.
Remember Chris Cornell? That's awesome.
He was great.
Who wants to go first? Who wants to go first for like their album pick and 30-second pitch?
I think either Naveen or Johnny have to go because we've already gone through this and gotten our asses handed to us. So you guys have got to put your dicks on the line. Let's see it.
Okay.
Whip it out.
Naveen.
Naveen, how about you go first?
All right, I'll go for it. I'm also going to type in here just so we can get all the names and things. But so for chat later. But it's Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. The album is Ugetsu, and it was kind of hard not being able to kind of see my actual physical copies of my albums and things and have to just kind of go through in my head figuring out what it was, which one would be really good. So I chose this one, and I think this one may get a big bomb just because, there's no vocals or anything. But
it may be a bomb, but Eric may discover like a long-lost cousin still living in Tokyo.
Possibly. So it is one of my favorite jazz albums of like all time of anything there. And it's just a great album front to back. Like I got to listen to it. And it's like something I always go back to every now and then, just because I just love listening to the songs, the different, sounds. Well, I mean, same kind of sounds, not like they put in like reverb or effects pedals and things, but just the compositions and the soloing in there is just awesome.
Sweet.
All right.
I'm down. One of my top 5 picks actually was a jazz album as well, and I passed on it. I was like, oh, it's gonna get shit on. Don't do it. Keep that one for myself.
The only jazz album I think I could bring to the table would be like Kind of Blue. Which,
Kind of Blue.
Yeah.
I listened to this one. I discovered it accidentally. It's by Cannonball Adderley.
Nice.
So it's a lot of horns, a lot of saxophone. It's good stuff.
So I'm kind of curious which one you want to choose out of your top 5. We can probably discuss that later, but definitely interested.
Surprise.
So I'll just kind of do mine real quick. This is the Rolling Stones 1969 album Let It Bleed. This is their 8th studio album, 9 tracks on it. The first and final track on Let It Bleed are extremely famous songs. In the middle there's also a Robert Jordan cover, which may or may not be kind of super well known, and a acoustic country music sort of rework of another sort of very famous Rolling Stone song. The rest of it is probably a lot of stuff you might necessarily not have kind of heard of before. I picked this one because, from Almost Famous, we did have kind of our conversations about just kind of how kind of the 70s are really like a kind of like a decade for music. This is an album, whether it's like the famous stuff or kind of like the unknown stuff, I think is so surprising and so fucking good front to back, and not even one I think you necessarily have to kind of let go on you. Just like the first pass through, you're like these are just like 9 absolute diamonds. So that will be my choice for Rebel Yells.
Very nice.
Cool.
Eric, or do you want me to go?
All right, I'll do it. So this is one of those albums that I listened to back in the day, and I don't know how it's going to go with people. It's an indie band. It's called Built to Spill. And if you guys are aware of them, every album they put out is so different. It invokes different vibes. It's always like a unique experience. The one I picked, the album is called There Is No Enemy. And if you see the cover up for the album, you'll probably recognize it. You'll usually see it at like record stores and stuff like that. And this is not even like their best album. This is probably like maybe their second or third best album. But I the thing about it is like right from the start, it just hits you in the face with just some like amazing songs. And it's one of those albums where it's kind of like, it's got really hard rock sounds. It's got a lot of like Calexico or Wilco, kind of like the alt rock kind of sound to it. And then it's got some slower songs and then some songs that kind of like invoke like Radiohead. So it's like a mix of things.
Did this come out like in our 20s or 30s?
This came out like, I think it was like 2009.
Okay.
2009.
Yeah.
So that was kind of peak sort of Shins, Iron and Wine stuff.
Their first album, or their first album that was considered like their best album, came out like 94. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they went through a bunch of different phases, and this is where they ended up in 2009. They actually have another album. I forget what it's called offhand, but it's a 8-track album, and they just went in a like Radiohead direction, and it's kind of like every song just kind of like melts into the next song, and it's like this one big story. And a lot of people consider that their biggest like risk, but it paid off in the end. I've never actually listened to it all the way through, but
is it Perfect From Now On?
Perfect From Now On, yeah, that's it.
Cool. I've heard of the band. I know absolutely nothing about them. Don't even know if I've ever heard any of their music. So
sweet,
could be fun. Okay, and then my choice is The Deer Hunter, Act 4, Rebirth in Reprise. So The Deer Hunter is really just one dude, Casey Crescenzo. I don't know how he pronounces his last name. From Providence, Rhode Island. This is 2015. Obviously, it's the fourth in a series of albums that he's put out that I think went to 5. That's the one. Yep, that's the one. I think it went to 5 or 6 albums. Basically, so I'm a huge Coheed and Cambria fan. One of my top favorite bands of all time. The Deer Hunter is sonically not very much like Coheed, but they have a similar, I guess, format in a lot of ways, or he has a similar format in a lot of ways, in that he takes this long form story and he builds it out along with the world and the characters over the course of several albums. It's a little bit indie. It's a little bit prog. It's a little bit orchestral. It's to me, it sounds like a fairy tale. I would say for me, this is my favorite of the ACT albums that he did. I don't know that it's the most well-received one. I actually didn't even bother to look into that because I frankly don't give a shit. I really like it. It was just something I thought I wanted to share with you guys. I'm sure that at least some of you have heard of this band, if not listened to them already. But yeah, I think it's cool stuff, and I think it, at the very least, it will. Some of the songs will interest you guys.
I'll tip my hat like a little bit early, Andy. Like this is a band I really like, and this is overwhelmingly the best album. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I was taking like a lift home from the show like literally about 2 weeks ago. I was listening to it like on the track back.
This album to me is without fault. I love it from start to finish. I could easily see people not loving it from start to finish because it definitely kind of does a little bit of up and down. It's extremely varied. Every song has like a different kind of theme, a different character to it. Yep. A lot of ideas. So anyway, cool. Awesome. I think it'll be interesting to hear from those who haven't heard it, as well as somebody, Johnny, who is a big fan. So cool. Awesome. Okay. All right, guys. So as Johnny mentioned earlier, I am going to talk a little bit about the rise and fall of Saturday morning cartoons, something that is near and dear to my heart, and really I think was the beginning of my love for art and ultimately my participation in art now. So, okay. This is just a quick little overview. I'm going to have the introduction, and then I'm going to talk about some contributing factors to, basically to the story arc, if you will, of Saturday morning cartoons. I have a few questions I'm going to throw your way, and then I have a very quick activity at the end that we're gonna quickly run through. So, oops, too far. There we go. All right. So my introduction. Today, we're diving into a nostalgic yet transformative era in television history, the rise and fall of Saturday morning cartoons. From their birth in the mid-1950s to their golden age in the 1960s and 70s, where animated series captivated kids across the nation, to their decline in the 2000s, we'll explore how cultural shifts, technological advancements, and changing viewing habits shaped this beloved tradition. Join me as we take a journey through iconic characters, memorable shows, and the impact they had on generations of viewers. So, first piece that I'm going to discuss is cultural shifts. In the mid-20th century, Saturday morning cartoons became a staple of childhood, reflecting the values and interests of the era. Shows like Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, and the Jetsons not only entertained, but also shaped societal norms and imaginations. However, as societal values evolved, so did children's entertainment. Increasing awareness around diversity and representation led to new programming that sometimes moved away from traditional cartoons, leaving classic shows behind. Technological advancements. The advent of cable television and the rise of 24-hour programming options drastically altered the landscape. Networks like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network began offering animated content throughout the week, diminishing the exclusivity of Saturday mornings. Additionally, the introduction of digital streaming services provided on-demand access to vast libraries of animated content, making it easier for kids to watch what they wanted when they wanted, changing viewing habits. Today's children have diverse entertainment options beyond traditional television. Video games, online platforms like YouTube, and streaming services have become popular alternatives. This shift means Saturday morning cartoons no longer hold the same allure. Kids are more inclined to choose interactive and personalized over scheduled programming. Together, these three factors contributed to the decline of Saturday morning cartoons, transforming how we think about children's entertainment today. The quick history of it was in 2010, if memory serves me correctly, the very last, what was truly to be considered a Saturday morning cartoon, which was on a block of television called Vortex, VORTEXX, showed its last cartoon. And in fact, I actually don't even know what it was. I didn't even find that information on there. It just kept on saying that Vortex was the last thing that was the last, I guess, gasp of Saturday morning cartoon
programming block.
Sonic X.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
It was a
one
Sonic
of those.
show they used to show that I'd make my son watch because I was like Saturday morning cartoons, and there was like a Sonic cartoon that they would show for like an hour.
Okay, so there you go. So maybe that was the last one. I don't know if I find out.
For extreme, as it turns out.
That's right. So anyway, so that was kind of, I tried to keep that part of it very, very brief because I think the more interesting part of this conversation really comes down to talking to you guys and seeing sort of, I guess, what your cartoon watching habits were back in the day. So let me just.
Were you changing the slides as you were reading that?
I was. You weren't seeing that happen, were you?
Nope.
Okay, just checking.
Why are you not seeing it? That's really odd because you actually need to see these.
It's a great thing.
The rise and fall of Andy's presentation.
Damn, dude. This is embarrassing. Holy shit. All right.
We're like in the edit mode.
Yeah.
Hold on.
What?
While
you're in the presentation.
Oh,
mode.
sweet. Did you create more visuals for us?
Well,
that nobody else can see, just us?
Kind of, yeah. Let me try this again.
Should I put the visuals, the slideshow in?
You could
Video?
actually. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still doing that. That's really weird. Why is it doing that? I wonder if it's because I have it on my. Hold on. If I have it over here.
Is it like a bunch of math problems or something?
Is that Microsoft PowerPoint?
It is. Yes.
That's why.
That's why it's not going to let me do it.
They have a built-in thing, so that way when you have two screens, one screen is the presentation and the other one's your edit. So if you need to do something, you can see and do both. So it's a setting within their
can you see that
presentation? Yeah, we can see that.
All right, so let's just go with this thing.
But if you do the presentation part, it does an automatic extended screen kind of thing.
Fucking technology, man.
That's
Jesus
kicking the
Christ.
nuts. Just John, fix it, John. Now.
Make it better. Make it work the way that I want it to work.
This
is
point,
you.
I might
Do
be
this.
the least qualified person.
John, do it in 3 acts.
Okay.
This is not going anywhere.
Okay, so this act is called. This part of the act is called a call to action, and now
call
I'm going
to action for Johnny.
No,
you always talk about how you got nothing but
You got a
time
call.
without a job right now. So we're just trying to give you something to do.
Yeah, but this is going to put me in a real bad headspace for just wanting to go back and get a job.
Ah, I see. Okay, then don't do that.
Can you fix the software?
John's in his apartment. He's just like, fuck, I can't get on the Wi-Fi.
Right.
If I try to figure this out, I'm just never going to be employed.
I'm going to relapse.
Okay, so all right. Now that I've got this sort of figured out, it doesn't look the way I want it to, but it's good enough. What were your go-to Saturday morning cartoons? Maybe each of you give me like 2 to 3 that were like super important to you. Naveen, go first. You're top on my camera list here.
You know what? I know I watched some, but I can't remember. Like
what?
Bitch,
I remember watching like the Saved by the Bell and the California.
Was it the kind of thing like it was just it was just like Cholet every Saturday morning, like that theater?
Yeah.
All right, wait.
No.
I refuse
nuts.
to accept. I refuse to accept those answers. Eric, you're next. Naveen, you're gonna come up last. You better have answers for me. This is too important.
All right, I got to figure out some Saturday morning cartoons. I know I've watched some.
Just wait till we hear his album, Rebel Yell. Garbage.
Right.
Hot garbage.
Yep.
I love Captain and the Game Master.
Captain N and the Video Game Masters.
I knew
Captain
that one
N.
was gonna come up.
I had to. John knows I bought it on a DVD when they had the collection out. Yeah. Mother Brain's so funny.
Mother Brain only had 2. Just the voice actor who played Mother Brain only had 2 voice acting credits. Mother Brain on Captain N and the Video Game Masters. Audrey 2 in like the 80s remake of Little Shop of Horrors, and was also one of the singers for Four Tops.
John, if you want to shut us down, do the Mother Brain impression.
What's that?
Now you have to.
Why don't you bring one of your sons down here and see if he still remembers the Mega Man impression?
Mega, oh no.
No, Mega, hi!
That episode where he smoked a little too much. He's like, man, I'm so mega high right now.
He turns from blue to a green costume.
Yeah. All right, let's go do those Olympics.
Johnny, what about you?
It should just be like a joint presentation.
Oh wait, oh no, I got more. I got so many more.
Yeah,
I was huge into Saturday cartoons. I watched until they stopped showing cartoons and they went to like Three Stooges episodes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh, it hurts so bad. Real Ghostbusters.
Other 3 guys on the panels, did you guys all grow up with cable television?
Yes.
For part of my childhood, yes.
Part of your childhood. Eric, you guys had cable the whole time?
Fuck yeah, bro.
Pretty much, yeah.
This is okay. So, growing up in the farm, out in the countryside.
Oh no, it's a
The
sob
farm.
story.
We got cable TV at the farm about 2022, because I think when it was finally like this.
His Saturday morning cartoons was watching the Apples
Yeah.
Grow.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude,
But
you use the rabbit ears. You don't need
my
cable.
memory of of kind of Saturday morning cartoons is so influenced by that, because I can still this day tell you best to worst how well the major networks came in. Fox 61, signal clear as a bell. NBC Channel 30, not too far behind. CBS, you could kind of get usually like on a good day. ABC was for the most part like a lost cause. UPN you could watch like you're kind of just standing on top of the roof with like just three coat hangers kind of bouncing.
Tinfoil hat.
Look at right there. Our last listener just dropped off. That's fucking old.
This is the inflection point.
Remember when TV was black and white unintentionally? Remember when? I remember.
Eric, other
Right,
favorite
Eric,
ones for you.
Two more.
Ghostbusters, man.
Ghostbusters.
The real
Could've watched
Ghostbusters.
it
or
on
the
ABC.
Ghostbusters?
Didn't come in.
So good.
Which? Wait. We have to clarify. The real Ghostbusters or
Real Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Not the. They had the Slimer one at the very end.
Well,
It's like Slimer and the real
It was a
Ghostbusters.
second show that was completely bizarre that was based on an old Ghostbusters patent that predated the movie.
It's called the
That was
Ghostbusters.
just called the Ghostbusters. And then
Yeah.
the SNL movie was the cartoon that was the real Ghostbusters.
That's
How do
right.
you think you could see? That was an old Hanna-Barbera one. You had to watch on like Boomerang or something. Cable people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else there is. I used to wake up early for that shit too. There was I used to watch, you guys probably didn't see it. Actually, no, this was a Sunday cartoon. I used to watch Sunday cartoons too. They'd be like G.I. Joe. There was Dark Stalkers had a cartoon.
Dark Stalkers.
Yeah, Dark
I don't know
Stalkers,
that
like
one.
the fighting game by Capcom, that had a cartoon. Saturday though no, the Mario Brothers were weekdays.
No, that was Saturday as well. At one
Was
point.
it? Or Super Mario 3 was on Saturdays?
It was originally a weekday
Super Mario
show.
World,
That they would do Monday through Thursday was Mario. They would do a Zelda cartoon Fridays, and that eventually pivoted to the Mario Brothers had 15-minute segments before and after the half hour of Captain N in like its final seasons.
Yeah. They did the Mario 3 and then they did the Super Mario World, and they had the little cave boy. There's like
Yep.
Yoshi and the cave boy, so they were in like caveman world or something like that.
Yep.
So many weird effing ideas that they pulled off on that show.
Yep.
Ninja Turtles was Saturday.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Ninja Turtles definitely was a favorite, but I don't know. Some of these things I always remember watching like during the week.
Uh-huh.
Like DuckTales
I think.
came up
yeah.
on the list, and I was like, I used to watch that during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Thundercats and Voltron were definitely
Voltron,
Those were
Voltron,
the
yeah.
biggest
Yeah.
Good
that
call.
I would say were my favorites, and just like
My Saturday morning cartoon lineup originally was I would go over. My grandmother lived in like a little in-law apartment off like a farmhouse, and originally my brother and I would go over to watch cartoons with her. And our lineup then was it was an hour of Muppet Babies and then half an hour of Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Peace
She found
Playhouse.
it very charming. Pee Wee's Playhouse. She found like it on the weird side. Then as we kind of got older, we started kind of going from like the childish stuff to like just like the violent boy cartoons.
Yeah.
Silverhawks was a major kind of like
Silverhawks.
Oh yeah, Silverhawks.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would have loved to have been
Hey,
able to
Silverhawks.
have watched like Thundercats and G.I. Joe and He-Man and all the rest. All of them happened on like the TV channels we didn't really kind of get at the farmhouse. It's kind of
Okay.
like whatever like the UHF channels actually were.
Okay.
So it kind of went like that. Silverhawks. The next inflection point I'm going to say was Captain N and the Video Game Masters. That broke my brain when I saw it for the first time. Next inflection point after that was when the Fox X-Men cartoon finally premiered.
Yeah.
That was maybe the final Saturday morning cartoon I watched consistently before I was old enough to kind of fall off.
Yep. Okay. What was your go-to sugary cereal to pair with Saturday morning cartoons? And I guess I will say if you weren't allowed to have sugary cereal, or if it wasn't your bag, then what was your, was it Pop-Tarts? Was it toaster strudel? Was it any of that stuff?
Oh, that's all good stuff.
Yep.
Rice Chex with 2% milk. End of answer.
That's the most boring answer I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I was waiting for John to say Apple Jacks. So
I would have loved.
You get a
to have
negative.
the option
Kicks.
for Apple Jacks.
I love Kicks.
Kicks.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicks
My
for
mother
kids.
brought home a box of Honey Nut Cheerios once, and she was like, "This is a one and only thing for the entirety of your childhood. You'll never see this sugar poison in the house again." It's like I don't need.
I love some criminal cereals like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That was my jam. I like that. I like Life cereal. I don't know why.
Life
cereal was fun.
Life is good.
Cookie Crunch.
Cookie Crisp.
Did any
Cookie
of you
Crisp.
guys
Sorry,
actually get Lucky Charms?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. What is this?
I hate Lucky Charms. Any
they're magically delicious.
Any cereal that has those freeze-dried marshmallows in them.
We just call them marshmallows.
Delicious.
They're not marshmallows. That is bullshit. I will. This is a hill I will die on.
Are they like? Are these astronaut marshmallows?
They are.
Whatever it is.
You take a bunch together and you call it ice cream.
They give me goosebumps when I eat them. Even just thinking about them, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. You can ask my family. I go off on this with some regularity. This is a big part of my life.
I only have s'mores with those kinds of marshmallows, by the way.
They
don't melt. They just stay hard.
You're off the pod. I'm sorry. I'm calling it now.
I would remember, because just for our generation, like cereal ads were so intrinsically tied to Saturday morning cartoons at the time. I would remember seeing these ads for all these amazing, cool, delicious-looking, colorful cereals with the freeze-dried, whatever they were, and like the prizes and all the shit you could get in the box. And I would remember looking down at my bowl of Rice Chex with 2% milk every single morning, and I just felt like a Dickensian orphan with his face pressed against like the frosted glass, watching a wealthy, happy family eat like a Christmas goose.
Please, sir, may I have a Cap'n Crunch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny eating his fucking Mutsu apple. This could last 2 meals.
Right.
Naveen, what about you?
Look at how cocky Eric is right now. Look at how relaxed his body language. He's like, I knew it. Hayward, there was always something different.
I'm on a 40-year high from like all the cereals I consumed back when I was a kid. So I'm still going. I got more.
Yeah. I mean, it was always a rotation. I mean, we had Pops, Fruit Loops, Frosted Flakes.
Yeah.
I definitely really dug the Nintendo cereal when it was around for a while.
Yes, I loved it.
That was a great cereal.
So good.
The 2 different kinds in one box, and
it's like the show.
It was just a rotation of different things.
What an enchanted Narnia childhood!
For me, it was always it was Golden Grams.
It was delicious too.
Yeah,
it was Golden Grams.
My teeth hurt so bad.
I love Golden Grams. It was Cocoa Puffs, and it was Cocoa Krispies. Those were my 3
Krispies, yeah.
And Pops. I loved Pops as well.
Pops,
yeah. I would still
remember going to Camp Workhoman for Boy Scouts when Naveen and I were young, and like the fact that at the mess hall you could get Frosted Flakes as one of the cereal options for breakfast made the rest like Boy Scout camp something I was willing to put up with.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the next 2 quickly because these are quick answers. How early did you guys get out of bed on Saturday mornings, or were you late sleepers?
Late sleeper.
Yeah, I knew that about you.
I did 8 a.m.
Okay, Johnny.
I know how much Eric is going to love this answer, and this is.
Look, you got to wake up early to pick the crop, John.
My brother and I could start watching Saturday morning cartoons anytime that we wanted. We had an extremely strict 90-minute time limit for when we started and then stopped the cartoon. So just how early or late you get up, it was completely arbitrary. It's just whatever we felt like watching.
But
got it.
It's amazing you were still able to get in like X-Men and then Captain N. So you picked like the good block to watch.
Yes,
it sounds like you definitely.
I was like an old school mafia bookie picking the ponies with like that shit. I would tear through the TV guide and be like,
TV guide. I know that's you. I mean, I did the same thing too. I'm like, okay, what is it, season? They'd have new cartoons.
Mhm.
So you're like, oh my God, what's going to be the new big ones? And they'd have, advertised all over the cover of the TV guide. So you sit there,
sorry,
you're
not
just
the
like
guide, but the
circling.
knockoff TV guide that came in the Sunday edition. That's what I read that cover.
What's that? You got a knockoff one?
Yeah, I never
Is
once
that
saw
like
an
poor
actual
man's
copy of
cable
TV
or
guide in
something?
my house.
You had to stand on the roof with a tinfoil hat on.
Yeah. Somebody would just take a TV guide, take silly putty, and rub it all over a page, and then hand it to you.
We only got 2 TV stations at the house. Like TV Guide wasn't even like a sensible purchase for us. Like, oh, this
Didn't
that
make any
looks fun.
sense.
I fucking
No.
watch it.
That was just poor financial choice if you decided to go buy one of those.
There we go.
For me, I was up
It's never
by
safe.
between 5 and 6 a.m. I mean, I was like
Wow. Okay.
first thing in the morning, and I watched until they went off the air that day, at like whatever noon or something like that. And I was always disappointed when the last one would go because I could sit and watch cartoons all day, every day, even now at 44 years
You
old.
guys remember how like the earlier you got up, the weirder the cartoons would actually be?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they weren't as good, but you
No.
still watched them because they were on.
Right.
So what I used to do is when I couldn't watch like all the cartoons were done, I would switch over to Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And they
Absolutely.
always had, it was weird content. They'd have like Danger Mouse.
Yep.
Or like, I don't know, Count Duckula, weird stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I really get it, but they had like Double Dare sometimes. They would do Saturday movies too. All kinds of weird stuff. It was like a mixed bag.
Doug and Rugrats.
Yeah,
and,
when they had those finally,
all that stuff.
oh my God.
I feel like that story about like how the Pied Piper came to town. He was playing his flute and he led all the children out of the city. And like, I'm just behind on crutches, kind of hobbling around. Like the kids are just far away, just going about, man, did you see Ren and Stimpy last weekend? That was fun.
John with his like raisin bran with like, just no raisins.
Rice Chex, the sweeter, more accessible cereal option in the house. The only other cereal we had on a regular basis, Post Grape Nuts.
I knew you were going to say Grape Nuts.
Yeah.
Grape Nuts, which
That
my
milk
father
bone
like
dog
had
biscuit.
like the homemade like canned peaches that my mother would.
All they did was they took all the milk bones that were broken on the floor and they crushed them up a little bit more, put them in a bag, and called them a cereal. That's what Grape Nuts was.
Did you? My healthy cereal for my parents was Kix.
Yeah,
it didn't have marshmallows. It didn't have anything.
Cheerios in my house. It was
Cheerios. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then this one, we can take or leave this question. How old were you guys when you finally stopped waking up for Saturday morning cartoons?
It's definitely in the middle school to high school phase.
Probably, yeah.
I can't say specifically the age.
No, Naveen is like, I finally got tired of Cholet every Saturday morning.
Dude, it was Opportunity Knocks.
Yeah.
Opportunity Knocks. Right.
I think about the best of my memory, the X-Men cartoon was like the last Saturday morning cartoon I really kind of followed sort of closely. I remember kind of watching the X-Men cartoon, and then there was like a Saved by the Bell spin-off that would air kind of like after that my brother and I would kind of like watch for a bit. But then I think we kind of pivoted to we had a very kind of limited TV allotment, and I think we just kind of decided to kind of use that for watching sitcoms and primetime stuff because just Simpsons had started at that point, dinosaurs, like a lot of other things we're just kind of more curious about.
Yep, that's fair.
I was going to say too, like weekdays. I don't know about you guys. Before school, I used to wake up early so I could watch those cartoons. That was probably the shift after like Saturday morning cartoons because I used to love watching Garfield and Friends like every morning before school.
Yep, I still remember
Garfield and Friends was a big thing. Yeah, Garfield and Friends, and their friends included U.S. Acres.
U.S. Acres. They release books apparently. Like maybe
they were like 2 or 3. Aren't they kind of like hard collections to
they're
find?
So hard to get. I had one that I ended up getting at like Walden Books or something like that.
Right.
And I couldn't find any other ones. And so we look online. I'm trying to find them on eBay. I couldn't find anything. You can sort of find them now, but it's so far in a few.
Right. Jim Davis was so productive that he had like that he had a spin-off. U.S. Acres was his Cunning of the Goose in a way.
Dude, I was all about that. I loved U.S. Acres.
But
Sheldon was my buddy.
Mhm.
All right, and now I have an activity. It's not going to let me type this in, so that's fine. We're just going to do it. We're going to just do it this way. That. Okay. Can you guys see it?
Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay, so I put together a bracket, 1980s cartoons. Now, I will be honest. This is not only Saturday morning cartoons. This is just some of the cartoons that I thought were the best from the 1980s. And this includes, it could be 1989 that they first aired. I count that as a 1980s cartoon. So I have even weighted them. I've given them first place, second place seedings and whatnot. And I want to see what you guys think. So let's just run through these quickly.
Okay.
First bracket, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe versus Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Spider-Man was probably like the better cartoon, but I never actually watched it all. He-Man was like a very formative thing, up to including like my parents. We had a fire at the farmhouse like a few years back, and I lost my entire childhood He-Man collection. I backed a Kickstarter a year or so after that made these kind of very detailed sort of miniature reproductions of all the He-Man figures, and I've been painting them up very slowly over like the last year or two. He-Man's like a just like a no-brainer win for me.
Naveen, do you also agree?
Well, I mean, I'm not into painting, but
not with that part.
yeah, no, I'm going with He-Man. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So He-Man wins. G.I. Joe versus the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
I'm going G.I. Joe.
Super Mario, G.I. Joe was kind of, it was not
man.
like, but it was kind of perceived as like the Republican, like kids show. So that's not something we ever really watched about.
All right, fair enough. So we've got one for one for G.I. Joe, one
G.I.
for
Reagan.
What do you think, Eric? You're the tiebreaker.
I'm gonna go with G.I. Joe.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Especially when the toys got into doing like those Street Fighter ones, like they had the Street Fighter toys. They had the ninjas, like
Cobra Commander had nothing on Iran Contra.
Voltron, Defender of the Universe versus Inspector Gadget.
Man.
Damn.
I'm going to go Inspector Gadget because I really enjoyed watching it. I didn't seek it out. It was just on TV, so I'd watch it, and I thought it was fun. Voltron, I loved the toys as a kid, but I think we were like 2 or 3 when they first started airing it, so I didn't get really that attached to it, other than I wanted Voltron.
It was a more expurgated version of like the original Japanese series, and the original Japanese series very, very dark. Even some of that kind of persisted out. Like I remember, like again, loving toys, but my impression of the Voltron like kids cartoon was like, this is a little darker and weirder than I'm kind of used to.
Remember too, they would always be playing that song "Rebel Yell" by Billy Idol. That was so weird.
So weird.
I'm writing down Dynaman now for Rebel Yell.
Dynaman. Yeah, there we go.
All right,
Inspector Gadget for me.
We've got an Inspector Gadget.
Nice.
We've got 2 Inspector Gadgets, right?
Yeah.
I am a Voltron.
You're a Voltron.
Voltron boy.
Eric, yours was Inspector Gadget, right?
Yeah, I'm Inspector Gadget.
All right, so
I had a crush. I like Penny.
Voltron episode where Voltron didn't have the arms and reminded him of the Inspector from Cholet.
DuckTales versus Smurfs.
Yes, I enjoyed Inspector.
Oh, come on. It's a no-brainer.
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Okay. Moving to the other side of the bracket, we have. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did I get all of them? I did. Okay.
Yeah. You got it.
Other side of the bracket: Transformers versus a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Transformers.
Yeah. I've heard repeatedly the new Transformers movie that's out, kind of a covert, similar to kind of like the Ninja Turtles movie last year, kind of a sleeper, a lot better than it has like any right to be.
Cool.
All right.
I do not like the other Transformers movies at all. So
no. It's a franchise that kind of lost its way.
Yeah. So are we in agreement? It's Transformers on this one?
Yeah,
sure.
Yes. Okay. Thundercats and the real Ghostbusters. I know this is a hard one.
Right. This is a tough one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thundercats.
I had the Thundercats layer. I was really big into them.
Yep.
But real Ghostbusters. I mean, I had the Firehouse too. I had the shoot. I'll go with Real Ghostbusters because it came with like slime and little ghosts and stuff, and I
Okay.
liked that. So
Johnny, you're the tiebreaker.
Ghostbusters, kind of no question.
Oh,
such
really?
fun-
Okay.
Such a
All
fun
right.
cartoon. You should revisit it. I have it on DVD, and I've rewatched episodes.
Did everybody here knows like the very obviously kind of well-known piece of trivia about the Real Ghostbusters, right? About the Bill Murray voice.
Yeah,
No.
with Garfield.
Oh yeah, it's in the first season of the cartoon. Peter Venkman was voiced by a voice actor named Lorenzo Music, who also did Garfield's voice on Garfield and Friends.
Oh, okay.
Bill Murray complained it sounded like my character sounds too much like Garfield, kind of not even knowing that it actually was Garfield's voice. The producers fired him, and in the second season of the Real Ghostbusters show, Peter Venkman instead was voiced by Dave Coulier from Full.
No shit.
And that was better.
Well, the grand kind of cosmic
I
irony
guess
of it
you
was,
ought to
like,
know.
Bill Murray himself ended up like voicing Garfield on like a couple like different movies, kind of years and years later. So it's just
And
Another-
nowadays, they've all been replaced by Chris Pratt.
there we go.
Another Dave Coulier piece of trivia that I just learned, it was either today or yesterday, is that he apparently for certain Richard Pryor movies that were being shown on television. So Richard Pryor famously refused to come in and redub.
And he would not dub sort of like clean line reads.
So Dave Coulier is the voice of Richard Pryor on network television or cable television versions of his movies.
A lift ride home. I was taken from a show about a year ago. I met a guy who grew up in Richard Pryor's orphanage. Like that's a story for like an episode.
Wow.
All right. Okay. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Mask.
This is another no-brainer. TMNT.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Masks opening theme song
Is a banger.
It's so good. I still go back to that. I don't even watch the show. I just go back to the opening theme. It's awesome.
Yep. So are you voting Mask?
I'll go Ninja Turtles. I have to.
Okay. That's two turtles. What about you, Naveen?
Yeah, I gotta go Ninja Turtles. I love Mask, but
Yeah.
Okay. And then Super Friends versus Muppet Babies.
Ooh.
Muppet
I
Babies.
don't know, Nanny. I think Muppet Babies.
Eric's best Muppet Babies joke we cannot possibly say.
No.
On,
No, I'll get canceled immediately.
not even on the Patreon. Let's just
No.
After we just have to kill the recording entirely. It's so fun. It's the first thing I think about when I think about Muppet Babies.
So are
I'm
we
just
going
telling you, Nanny's legs. Fuck those stockings, man. Every time I saw her walk in, heard that nice young elderly voice, because that's the thing.
You hated to see her leave, but you loved to watch her go. Is that what it was?
I just want to know where those legs ended. That's all.
Uh-huh.
There was a great early season Robot Chicken sketch where it was set in like the modern Muppet Show, and somebody was killing off like the different Muppet cast members one by one.
Oh,
and the reveal at the end of the sketch was that it was Skeeter.
Yeah.
that tracks actually.
Yeah.
So are we going Muppet Babies?
It's got to be Super Friends for me because that's been like the most. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a this is easily the toughest of the bracket for me.
I agree with you completely. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's see if we can blaze through the rest of these because Johnny, I know you still have yours as well.
Right.
Okay, He-Man versus G.I. Joe.
He-Man.
I'll go He-Man.
All right.
Naveen.
Yeah, I was gonna go G.I. Joe.
All right.
Not like
Just
a
trying to make America great again against Smitty.
Oh boy, no. Yeah.
Team Skeletor.
Yeah.
Inspector Gadget versus DuckTales.
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 Okay. Transformers and Ghostbusters.
Transformers.
Ghostbusters.
Boy,
Johnny.
I just watched Ghostbusters like on the flight back from Tokyo, so I got to go with my heart on this.
Ghostbusters. Got it. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Muppet Babies.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
I'm going to say Muppet Babies for this.
It's a valid answer. It's a valid answer.
It was very PG, so.
He-Man versus DuckTales.
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 All right.
DuckTales is the winner. Okay.
Competition.
Ghostbusters versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Still Ghostbusters for me.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Man,
In fact,
don't do
the
this to me.
Ghostbusters cartoon had the guts in the 5th or 6th episode to actually depict an animated version of like the Dan Aykroyd ghost blowjob. Just artistically.
Really?
inspired.
Oh, wow. Oh. Then we're done here, guys.
Well, shit. I mean,
John just cleaned up. All right.
no more
You might
needs.
as well do your Muppet Babies joke.
I'll go with Ghostbusters because nostalgia says Ninja Turtles, but I've tried to rewatch some of those episodes and they just do not hold up at all.
Oh, no kidding.
So
they're pretty bad.
Ghostbusters wins on that one, guys.
Although last year, Mutant Mayhem, great film. Really great.
Was great. You're
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch the. They have the show on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
It's supposed to continue right after the movie.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't watched
Yeah,
that at all.
pick up after. Same thing with Sonic. They did the same. They have the Knuckles spinoff TV show, and it has same actors. Animation is just awesome. It's good.
One of my favorite tweets ever was after they announced that Idris Elba was going to do the voice of Knuckles in the Sonic movie. This one woman posted a tweet that says, "I may not be a spiky pit, but I can definitely make Idris Elba's Knuckles disappear."
Jesus Christ. Wow.
Levine cut all of that out. This is a wholesome cartoon show.
All right, guys. This is the end. DuckTales versus the real Ghostbusters.
DuckTales.
It has to be DuckTales.
Has to be DuckTales.
It has to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
It has to be. It was so
Wow.
good.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Not just like the quality of like the actual cartoon, but the source material, the old Carl Bark stuff.
Carl Bark stuff, but I mean, it was just so engrossing, that show. I loved how they traveled. I just loved the characters.
Amazing.
I liked a bunch of those ones that Disney used. I liked Tailspin too. I was a huge Tailspin fan.
Yeah. Yep.
The Disney
Absolutely.
Afternoon cartoons.
Disney Afternoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Chippendale,
So-
all those.
I went through and I did this exercise myself. I'm going to be very, very quick through this because, again, I know interest of time. I agreed with most of what you said. So the only, let's see, where did I disagree with you?
Thundercats. You want Thundercats?
Let's see. I disagreed. I disagreed on Inspector Gadget. Anyway, long story short, I ended up with G.I. Joe against Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being the victor in that one. But this was like a Sophie's choice for me because I genuinely love pretty much every single show that I put on this list. In fact, I'm reading through. Yes, every single show that I put on this list.
They all have their qualities. They all have things to defend about them. And this is really these seed picks are so excellent because it's such a good kind of survey of what a childhood is about.
Yep, absolutely.
I was a little disappointed. I didn't see Camp Candy on there at all.
Camp Candy. You didn't
That
see
wasn't the 80s.
Rick Moranis and Gravedale High.
What was it?
That wasn't the 80s. That was 90.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
It wasn't around very long.
I could be wrong
They did
about
a
that.
Beetlejuice cartoon too, didn't they?
There was a Beetlejuice cartoon, absolutely.
Maybe that was
a
90s.
weekday cartoon rather than starting.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there was so much good stuff back then. I mean, I didn't even scratch the surface of all of the shows that I just to this day still absolutely love. But anyway, I'm gonna stop it there. It's late, so I'm gonna stop it there. But I could go on about cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, for the entire night.
Yes.
You were worried it was going to be a downer of a topic.
Again, I knew the conversation would be fun.
Yeah, of course. Except for John. John made it a little sad, but I didn't let it.
This
Right,
is
yes.
part of the I think like the benefit and the appeal of this podcast is in one way or the other. This is a far cheaper option than like any like the paid therapy that all four of us going to need for varying degrees. Yeah.
I love it because you're like everything you're like poo-pooing on, and then all I could because I'm like, John just sounds like an orphan that wasn't actually an orphan.
This is not me poo-pooing on anything. Like I would have unlimited cartoon watching and like a sugar ass bowl of nonsense and freeze dried marshmallows or whatever the fuck they were.
Yeah.
Me. That was the joy. That was the goal at the time. Or just being able to, just watch ABC cartoons that didn't look like a fucking snow globe was kind of getting that shit.
I mean, you also have like more teeth than I do, and most of your hair, so that's good.
Right, yeah. I don't shit blood when I eat yogurt. I mean, that's
isn't pre-diabetic.
That's yeah.
Just got a physical. All my blood work like really great.
See,
like,
there you go.
Oh, awesome.
It's like you must have had a PBS mom growing up.
Yeah.
Here I am with Crohn's disease, but man, did I love that sugary cereal.
There we go.
Dude, it was so worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Andy, that was so much fun. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I had a
Good.
great
Glad
time.
you guys liked it.
I don't want to do mine now on the basis of what it actually was. This will actually feel like
John, you got 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's go. And then straight to sorbet.
That's good because sorbet is like 80% of like what I've written for this thing.
I didn't say your mom. You're like sorbet. No, it's not sorbet. It's sorbet.
What is happening? 2% milk. Yeah.
Rice checks. Mutsu apples.
Can you imagine rice checks being the more sugary, accessible option?
No.
in the house?
Does rice checks have any sugar in it at all?
Yeah.
Compared to grape nuts, because it must because it's not all bones, right?
Yeah, right. That's a good point.
I'm sure like
Not
all
bones and
cereal,
baby
if it doesn't have sugar in it, probably just tastes like metal.
Yeah.
It just tastes like the shitty metallic equipment it was made on.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do like a sort of my little thing right now. It's going to be boring. I'm gonna lose all three of you.
Pretty little.
Yeah, it's
Mutsu apple's much bigger.
That's all we had. Like a good sized Mutsu that lasts you the better part of a week.
It's like the size of like a grapefruit or like
I'm
a
not
baby
getting
cantaloupe.
blood when I eat yogurt, so it's still I feel like I'm ahead of it. All right. I'm going to try
Not
to
a competition, Johnny. Not
Can
a
we turn this
competition.
into a board game?
not a good one.
I got these gems also, aka poker chips.
I've got this dinner pairing with like a session of Splendor. It's mostly just like kind of gem lettuce and pop rocks.
This looks like a marble playbook. Like you're out with your friends and you're shooting marbles and you're like, all right, so to get the one on the left side, just kind of ricochet off the.
Okay. So this, I'm going to try to go sort of kind of real quick through this. I thought since we are discussing about like the majority of the episodes that we do on the show are sort of movie discussions, and I studied like a fair bit of kind of creative writing back in college, and I some of that kind of curriculum I kind of was doing on the side to my engineering degree was kind of on how you do plot structures when you're writing a novel, you're writing a short story, and how you're writing a movie. So this is a thing when you kind of explain to people for the first time, it loses them a little bit because you're just like, hey, check this thing out. It's called 3-act movie structure, and it's how the majority of films you continue to watch or you've seen in your lifetime, particularly children's movies, sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure films, all of them kind of follow this basic structure. So when people are kind of writing and editing and directing kind of films, like this is like the basic sort of blueprint that the majority of them are working with. So when you have this kind of explained to you for the first time, you're like, I don't quite get how this kind of connects to any sort of real movie that you've seen. But when you kind of learn this, and then you kind of look at kind of different movies you kind of know well without lens, it can be sort of like very surprising to people. So I thought it's when I kind of learned about this, it changed how I sort of watch movies like a little bit. So I wanted to kind of share some like the basic structural things they kind of do, and then I'll kind of kind of tie this back to three movies I think that everyone on the show should know like pretty well. And these are slides we can kind of put like in the video or kind of like just share on the Google Drive, whatever else. But basically, the idea for a 3-act movie structure is that you have 3 acts called the call, the adventure, and the climax. Okay, Act 1, it's the call. That's the first maybe kind of quarter or so of the film. Act 2 is like the middle 50% of the film. That's the adventure. Act 3, that's the kind of the climax. This particular way explained it, there's a lot of different ways. This is my own sort of particular kind of hybrid, like a couple different ways. Very specific events and plot points happen in all 3 of these acts. I'm just going to like talk through them kind of real quick. Act 1, the call, is basically like what's generally the first quarter of the movie, and it's sort of what introduces you to like the hero, the world that they live in, and kind of what their sense of normalcy is and how they kind of get pulled out of like the normalcy of that world. Act 2, the adventure, is how when like the hero is kind of thrown into some kind of conflicted kind of like kind of difficult circumstance, how they kind of move their way through it, how they sort of learn, how the kind of like stakes kind of escalate, and like the big confrontation that they kind of build to that happens about 3/4 of the way through the movie. That confrontation usually sort of being something in where they either kind of fail outright or lose in like a very kind of compromised way. Act 3, the climax, the last 25% of the movie, is the hero kind of regrouping, taking another run at whatever like the big kind of conflict of this movie, winning, and then in like the last, however, kind of just kind of small silver kind of time that you have left, you see the action, the conflict sort of winding down, and like the hero kind of returning kind of back home or to kind of back to some initial state, changed in some kind of way because of like the adventure they actually kind of went on. I'll sort of kind of I'll go real kind of quick through like these individual points. In kind of Act 1, you have a start called normalcy. You have a plot point where something kind of disrupts that normalcy. You have the hero kind of initially kind of saying, I can't handle this. I don't want to confront this thing. I don't want to get involved in it. And then at the end of Act 1, you have a moment called the acceptance of the call, where the hero finally decides, okay, I'm going to go on this adventure. I'm going to I'm going to confront this thing. So that's kind of that's Act 1. Act 2 is where the majority of the story kind of takes place. You see the hero leave their home after accepting the call, kind of going out on an adventure. They learn more about themselves. They get more confident. They get more skilled. They start generally acquiring allies at this point. The conflicts, like the dotted line that like the level of conflict, the dotted line that I kind of show like in the slide, represents how much conflict, how challenging things kind of become as like the story progresses. Usually around the the midpoint of the film, something happens that drastically escalates the stakes. Very often it's like for the first time the hero comes face to face with the main bad guy, but any number of things can kind of happen, and that's really like the moment that kind of like that sort of really like accelerates, makes it kind of like, okay, shit, it's the shit just got real moment generally. And when you're kind of watching films, not all movies kind of generally follow this structure, but the midpoint, interestingly, is something you see very, very consistently in like a lot of these kind of Western films that you watch. After that, after the midpoint, the conflicts kind of escalates. Things become more sort of difficult for the hero. Finally, at the end of the Act 2, the adventure, there's what we call a failed confrontation. It's the hero comes sort of face to face with like the challenger, the evil, the big bad of the film, and they either have like an outright defeat or a very, very compromised win against like the mega antagonist. That's where Act 2 ends. Finally, Act 3, the last quarter of the movie, you see like the hero, they kind of go back, they sort of regroup, they gather their allies together, they think about like all the things they've kind of learned or like the skills they've acquired or like the friends they've made over the course of the movie. They take another run at whatever like the big evil is. There's finally a successful confrontation. And after that, in like the last few minutes of the film, that there's what's called the like the denouement, where things just kind of relax, wind down, very kind of just classic sort of kind of hero's journey style. Like the hero kind of goes back to either their home, starting point, step 0, whatever it is. they return home, but like their adventure, what they've just kind of gone through is kind of like changed them fundamentally. So that's sort of big overall. Any kind of questions on that before we go on?
Nope.
No, sir.
Yeah. So we'll kind of run sort of real quickly through. So you look at this and you're like, okay, this is kind of like abstract and sort of academic. What does this actually have to do with like the movies I really like? So what I did is I actually sort of kind of grafted onto this chart 3 different movies where you can actually kind of track point by point, and almost kind of like certain movies you can almost see kind of like these kind of plot beats happen to like the minute in the film, relative to kind of like this sort of kind of graph that I laid out. So I've got 3 movies here. I've got how this kind of works in Star Wars Episode 4. I got how this works in Coraline, which in the interest of time, I think I'm just going to like skip over. We can kind of swing back to it later. And I've got how this works kind of more recently for like a film we just watched a couple weeks ago called The Road Warrior. I'll just do kind of like Star Wars Episode 4 real quick. You have Act 1, the story kind of being about like kind of Luke Skywalker, his experience kind of like leaving kind of Tatooine. There's kind of normalcy like established in the first part of the movie. The thing that kind of disrupts the normalcy is he and Uncle Ben sort of going out and buying the droids. They bring like the droids back to like the moisture farm. They find out like that they find this message from Princess Leia. They end up meeting Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan kind of tells Luke about like his father fighting together in the Clone Wars. Luke is kind of very kind of compelled by it, but he's just like he has like this rejection call moment of, this sounds kind of cool helping you out, but I have family here. I can't really kind of leave my home. And the acceptance of the call moment, the point in Star Wars where like the first act ends, is Obi-Wan and Luke go back to the moisture farm, and they find that Uncle Ben, Aunt Beru, they've been killed off by the Emperor. At that point, Luke decides, okay, I got to join this old man. I'm on this adventure to kind of just kind of get revenge on my family. Act 2 starts. Things kind of escalate. Luke starts, he starts gaining skills. He starts practicing the lightsaber. Acquisition of allies. They meet Han Solo and Chewbacca. They kind of go on this mission. What they originally think is going to just be delivering the droids to Alderaan. Right at the midpoint of Episode 4 is when they get to Alderaan. They realize the planet has been destroyed, and they get captured by the Death Star. That's the point where, like I said, like the stakes very dramatically escalate from what was kind of going to be like a very kind of simple mission to something much more tough, much more complicated. The back half of Act 2, they have the rescue of Princess Leia. They're all in disguise. They're being chased around by like the stormtroopers. Act 2 sort of wraps up with kind of what they call like the failed a confrontation where Han and Luke and Leia and Chewie and the droids, they manage to escape the Death Star, but Obi-Wan, to distract Darth Vader, has like a fight with him where he's ultimately killed. Act 3 starts. Everybody arrives at Yavin. They know that there's a tracker like on the ship. They know the Death Star is kind of coming after them. Everybody kind of groups everything. The sort of successful confrontation is the TIE Fighter battle of Yavin, the trench run and everything else. Finally, Luke manages to like evade Darth Vader, destroy the Death Star, and the denouement of that, like the climax happens, and it's kind of like the final minutes of the movie where they go back to Yavin. Everybody celebrates. Everybody except Chewbacca gets like a medal for some reason.
Poor Chewie.
Yeah, poor guy. And sort of like the Coraline almost falls like this act like completely exactly. The Road Warrior. I was considering like a few different movies for this, but I was just like, why don't I kind of take a look at something we kind of watched recently, and you can almost track it to like this exact same sort of plot structure. Act 1, Max is just kind of driving around. His normalcy is just like, I get a little bit of gas. I have to fight off some scavengers, but I'm also just kind of chilling my dog. I'm kind of doing my own thing. The thing that disrupts normalcy for him is meeting the gyrocopter. The gyrocopter being like, oh yeah, there's a compound. All the gasoline you can take. It's the thing that's like, oh, maybe I can sort of like advance myself like a little bit in this world. They go out to like the cliffs overlooking the compound. They're sort of surveilling everything for like a little bit. Max watches some like the settlers trying to escape. They sort of kind of get run down and killed or injured by the Lord Humongous gang. The Act One sort of finale of the hero kind of like accepting the call is him rescuing one like the badly injured survivors and taking him out to the compound to try to broker a deal. From there, Act Two, first half of part of the midpoint, again, sort of like, just developing skills, the acquisition of allies. He meets the feral kid, he meets the medicine woman, he meets Papa Gallo. People try to start forming connections with him. The big character arc of Max is that he doesn't want like a new family. He prefers to just kind of be like on its own. The midpoint took me like a little bit to like figure out. I actually had to go back to like the Max video of it, but you can see if you kind of scrub right to the middle of the film what happens at like what's the thing that's supposed to, at least in the plot structure, really kind of like accelerate like the danger and the plot and the stakes for like the hero. The midpoint of the movie is when Max finally gets to the rig and he has to drive it back through like the Outlander. Like almost it's if you kind of scrub through almost exactly at the center point of like the film, you kind of see Max sitting in the cab, sitting in the rig. He kind of sighs like a little bit because like this is the moment like that. He's been kind of quiet and anonymous. He's been kind of being able to kind of sneak around like the the Outlander gangs. This is like the first moment in the movie where he is coming directly at these guys in service of actually something kind of bigger than himself. So that's where like the first kind of like big sort of road warrior kind of car chase actually starts. On the back half, like the midpoint, you see kind of like the stakes. See the stakes accelerate. Max finds himself kind of getting closer and closer, like the people in the compound. The gang gets crazier and crazier. They start stringing up kind of some like their captors. Max makes a decision to finally like leave with a Dodge Interceptor, but not accept help with anyone else, not kind of stick around to kind of help the other people in the compound. There's another car chase where basically because he tries to take on the gang by himself without any of these allies that he's kind of acquired, this is the failed confrontation where his car ends up being like destroyed and his dog dies. Very kind of crucial there to know it's actually the gyro captain that actually kind of saves him from the outcome of this confrontation. So at this point, Act 3, that's climax. Everybody kind of regroups at the compound. They make their kind of like big escape plans. The final act, sort of like kind of big kind of chase between the between the oil rig and the outlaw and the Outlander gang kind of ensues. The big confrontation is when Lord Humongous and Wes kind of end up kind of dying in the car collision. All the other gangsters sort of kind of drive off after it's revealed that the oil tank is kind of full of sand. And the denouement, like the last kind of few minutes of the movie, is the gyro captain shows up. He brings the feral kid kind of back to the compound, and Max just kind of goes on his way again. Again, he sort of like within the denouement, within kind of the hero's journey, changed moment of the hero kind of going back to the person he was before, but like also like a very different person because of his experiences. So that is slides part of that. Thoughts?
You've mentioned the 3-act thing in the past, sort of in passing, without explaining exactly what you meant. And I had a general concept of what it was, but it's interesting to see it broken down like that. And especially, I'm a visual learner, so which of course is great for a podcast. Taking it through, a couple of movies that I'm very familiar with, that kind of crystallized it.
I also, because we're running a bit short of time, Coraline, like the film version of it, almost hits like those exact things. Like again, that sort of I can kind of share that later at some point.
Yeah, you're cool. Just breaking it down and just seeing how the structure of it is neat.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to kind of like watch a movie and kind of note when a director is explicitly kind of doing stuff like that. It's also interesting to kind of watch when they kind of break from that format, like a little bit, like a thing that James Cameron is actually sort of very famous for is making his third acts a lot longer than they are kind of like in a standard movie. Like, just it's something you may or may not kind of be consciously aware of, but kind of growing up on sort of Western movies that, these traditionally structured things are kind of in the back of your head, how you expect to kind of like how you expect like a film to kind of go in one way or the other. Like films where they kind of skip that or kind of deviate around it or do something like a little bit different, consciously or not, it's kind of like a noticeable thing. Cameron, especially like Aliens, like the big example of this. Like I said, the Act 3 stuff usually is the back quarter of the movie. Cameron in Aliens makes that considerably longer than it would be in a traditionally structured film, because he really kind of wants to give you like the sense that kind of Ripley and Newt and Bishop are kind of in the middle of hell, that they have to kind of fight their way kind of like for an abnormally long amount of time to get out of like the danger of like the situation.
Nice. I'd like to see you to put that to the raid that we watched.
That's what?
That was the raid.
Oh, sure. Well,
because we had talked about that's not what your typical hero's journey was like. You wouldn't these kind of movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a cop. He's like, it's a cop. I got to do this. Everybody else is dying, so I'm only one left. So let me do this.
Yeah. So what I actually had, like, and I went back over like all the movies that we sort of watched previously on the podcast, and so this kind of leads into like the sorbet that I came up with. I have 8 movies out of what we watched previously that I either noted at the time when I was watching what happens at the midpoint, or I was able to kind of go back through it and kind of figured out what that is. And again, the midpoint, even movies that are kind of outside the more traditional kind of hero's journey kind of genre, even in kind of a comedic or dramatic or more kind of experimental kind of films, the midpoint is still something that you see like relatively frequently. There's just something about screenwriting and the way that Western audiences watch movies that you kind of expect something has to happen around the midpoint of the movie to raise the stakes, to make things like a little bit more exciting. So for the 8 movies that I was able to kind of figure that out, I'm going to give you guys a quiz to see if you can kind of tell off the top of your heads what the actual midpoint of the movie was. These are really, really hard. I tried to sort these by like the easiest, like the most challenging. I've got 8 of these. I think if you guys are able to kind of figure out even like 3 of them,
these are all movies you assumed that we've seen.
These are all movies we talked about to the podcast, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Find the midpoint, and again, this is the thing.
C.
Yeah.
Robot.
Robot.
C.
The Rock, 1996. The Rock. What is the midpoint of The Rock? What's the scene? What's the moment that dramatically raises the stakes for our
the scene where Nicolas Cage is snorting coke off of Sean Connery's ass in the jail cell, and then Sean Connery
just right after that.
He goes, "Ooh, I got a chill down my spine," and then that just sets shit
up. I love The Rock.
It's got to be
normalcy.
It's got to be where all the Marines get killed.
Exactly. Yeah. If you scrub through the movie, that scene where in the shower room, Ed Harris's men are kind of like up on the balcony and they mow like all of the Navy SEALs down. That's almost the exact halfway point of the movie, and that's the point where everything it's basically just Cage and Connery for like the rest of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they barely have time to kind of like. Hey, pardon?
Gotta love the shower scenes.
Gotta love those showers. Gotta love those prison showers.
Do you?
Talk about raising some stakes.
You know what? It just keeps straight to the climax.
Right. So that's one of the 2 easy ones. The other,
yeah,
can't really kind of go. Okay, so the midpoint, Blade Runner 2049. what is the point? And particularly think about Ryan Gosling's performance. There's something that happens almost exactly midway through the movie. It just raises the stakes.
Raises stakes in Blade Runner.
Is it when he finds the horse with the engraving on the feet?
A little bit after that. No, sorry, a little bit before that. Wait.
Before that?
Yeah.
Before that? Really? Okay.
Actually,
he was in Vegas.
Sorry.
John said these were hard.
I can't 100% say. I can't 100% say for sure one way. Think about his acting more than anything else.
His what?
His acting?
What they call him, Little Goose?
Baby Goose.
Baby Goose.
Mm.
Would you say his acting?
Is it when he begins to suspect that he's not a full replica, or when he begins to suspect that he is Harrison Ford's son?
Yes. At the only point where Ryan Gosling shows any real extreme emotion is when he's talking to the woman who sort of manufactures kind of replicant memories. And she suggests for the person, she looks at his memory and she's like, this definitely happened. And he just screams.
Yeah.
It happens almost exact kind of halfway point. Prior to that, he's just some robot who's kind of being given tasks. For the remainder of the movie, right up to like the last few minutes, he thinks he may actually be like the son of Harrison Ford and a real boy. Okay. So those are the two easy ones. We got two. The Warriors. What happens at the midway point in the film that really raises the stakes? The Warriors.
I've got something for you, gumshoes.
Get out of my face, Becca Wood.
The Warriors, midpoint.
Yeah.
When they get split up
Yep.
in the park.
Ooh, good one.
Oh, nice.
96th Street. The gang gets split up, and Fox also gets thrown in front of the subway by the
I was
cop.
going to say that, yeah. There.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Nice.
3 for 3. We're already doing great.
5 more to go.
The thing.
That's
This
the
is
thing.
where these get like really weird and obscure. So, no judgments. You guys already got a passing grade. So the thing.
It's when they start thinking each other, like Brimley's in the. They put
When they start
Brimley-
letting each other.
Is it when Brimley breaks all the communication equipment and they stick him in the shed?
Not quite.
It's after that, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so this I'm just going to tell you guys. Like very frequently the midpoint. Keep this in mind for some of the others coming up. The midpoint is when you first kind of meet the main antagonist face to face, and almost exactly like halfway through the thing. That's the first on-screen alien kill. I forget who the exact scientist is. Like all the deaths, all the deaths and the absorptions happen.
Isn't that within like the first 30 minutes or something?
No, halfway.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is that the part where they're?
They walk in and they see like the one scientist and like the alien has like his tentacle kind of wrapped up.
oh.
I guess that happened.
I would definitely not have come up with that one.
The Raid.
The Raid when he took over as
His brother.
Yep, that's it.
Which
His
one
brother?
is it?
The Raid. When Rama finally finds his brother Andy.
And he brings him into the apartment.
Very good. Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
When he knocks himself out.
In the last 10 minutes, great midway point.
Yeah.
There's always a Maverick. Keep in mind, like some of the things. Like frequently, it's when you first meet the big antagonist face to face.
Oh,
When
during
did he first meet Lopan?
during the showdown.
When he first meets him was when he ran him over.
Yeah, we hit him with the truck, right?
Lopan?
Yeah.
When he,
Maybe it was this.
Lopan being in
Is it at the scene at the beginning of the movie where he's buying like a Mugwai off him? No, that's the call to action. My bad.
It's the scene again, just almost exactly halfway through the movie. Jack and Wang meet Lopan face to face for the first time. James Hong he's in really old man makeup. He's rolling around in like the wheelchair the whole time.
Oh, really? Maybe.
Kung Fu Hustle. This is really kind of like a tough one, but let's not spend too much time. Does anybody have a stab at what the midway point of Kung Fu Hustle is?
The guys who play the guitar thing.
It's just a little bit after that.
I think it's after. I think it's
Is it after that?
shit. It's
I don't
around
remember
the
the
time
sequence
with
of events.
the limo. The limo pulls away, and then they have the slapstick stuff where the guy's hair gets caught on fire. Or is that?
That's
around there.
A little bit. That's a little bit. It's when they first start describe. It's the moment where the Axe Gang is like, okay, we got to get revenge on the townspeople.
They come back. Yeah. So that's when
the
something happens.
beast
They come
first
back.
mentioned explicitly. Where they
Yeah.
tell him, okay, it's right after. It's right after the like the sitar play, like the musicians have kind of like been defeated. It's the first mention of the beast that happens at like the midway.
It's the couple, like the landlady and the landlord guy. They go and they clean up, and then the Axe Gang leaves, and then they come back again.
Right. It's like it's
With the dates.
right. So it like the Axe Gang gets saying after the landlady and landlord beat like musicians, and they're just like, okay, we need you to help bust. We didn't realize that there's the two crazy talented kung fu people in town, so we need you to help you. We need you to bust like the beast, like out of like the sanitariums kind of saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally, this is the toughest one in the bunch. Opportunity knocks.
Oh Christ!
What happens at the midway point of opportunity knocks that really raises the stakes?
The really racist Japanese impression. The guy's like, I'm gonna sue the shit out of you guys.
I just wanted the bathroom. Oteo Rai. That's the first. Yeah, that's the first week of Japanese.
I don't even remember. I have blocked the majority of that movie out of my memory.
Not when the brother comes home,
when
is
Milt
it?
finally meets Lou at like the place where their house sitting. With Robert Loggia's character, it's Todd.
Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia. It's the first time like Dana Carvey's like this fake world he's trying to like ingratiate himself into, and the criminal world he's actually like involved in. Right at the midpoint of the movie, Robert Loggia comes to the house, and then Dana Carvey's house Lou is just kind of chilling and hanging out. It's the first time like those two worlds actually.
He's like, Dana, I need some closure.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I got a baseball for you.
Come in. I was just enjoying my wine and peaches.
Yeah. Take a seat on the love seat.
All I was thinking about was his performance as Browns the entire time. So yeah. Structure. You guys got 4 out of 8, pretty good. Just a thing that kind of wanted like to kind of give ourselves like a little kind of like extra. That'll be interesting. Maybe it's like a little kind of like vocabulary. Kind of
yeah, man. Sweet.
Cool. All right.
Very cool.
Closing thoughts and coming attractions. Anything you guys want to like wrap up on, or should we just kind of talk about what our October looks like on the show?
Yeah, I think going right into the
Wrap it up.
Yep.
Okay. So coming up, we have the next 4 weeks. I think we can just kind of just talk through like the remainder of the cycle that we're doing. Next week, we continue with superior sequels. Sort of my pick of the episode. We're going for the cycle. We're going to be watching The Great Muppet Caper. Really, really looking forward to that and having discussion about like just how that stacks up against the original Muppet movie. Week after that, we're going to do Eric's pick for superior sequels. I think maybe probably the most controversial one relative to the theme. A movie I personally think is fucking fascinating and in conversation for like one of like the best kind of like sort of horror movies like the 21st century. Eric, yeah, anything you want to kind of tag on for that?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's controversial. That was normal for me growing up. So, I mean, if you go back, I'll just say this. It's not for everybody. It's a weird, fucked up tale based on actual source material. It's actually fairly accurate to the source material.
It's 1,000
to give you an
times more
idea
accurate than anything sort of depicted in like the Judy Garland.
Yeah, of where they were coming with this. I don't think they were expecting it to be this horrific, but it's like nightmare inducing. And I stand by it. So
it's just an incredible film. I believe I mentioned this like on a previous podcast, but just for like any new listeners, spoilers for like a Return to Oz. This is a movie that starts in the first 5 minutes. Dorothy's back in Kansas. She spends too much time talking about the wizard and the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. Tien gets concerned, so they take a horse and buggy out to Kansas City so Dorothy can be subjected to electroshock therapy. You hear these crazy hallucinations.
Where she's magically transported to Oz, where she meets a talking chicken and Slender Man.
I for one am excited to watch this movie.
If nothing else, Andy just off the top gave us some gorgeous Edward Gorey inspired like artwork for like this episode. Andy, Naveen, have you seen this movie previously?
Nope.
I have seen it, not all the way through, and a million years ago.
Yeah. So, are we talking like adulthood, teenager? Is this a 80s childhood memory?
I mean,
way back.
I was a kid. I was a kid.
Right. Wishing it was G.I. Joe instead.
That's right. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
Okay. So the week after that, we have what we discussed earlier, our 4-way Rebels Yell album review episode with just going to go back through albums by Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Built to Spill, The Deer Hunter, and the Rolling Stones. Looking forward to that. And then finally, this is something we haven't quite figured it out yet, but we thought that our last show for like the month of October, we should do a Halloween episode. We have not quite kind of kicked the tires on that yet. We don't know what the specifics are, but we will be sure to let our listeners know as soon as we get that figured out.
Yep. Sounds fun.
Yeah. Good. All right. So that's all I got on my end. Just anything else, gentlemen?
No. Great show tonight. Some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it thoroughly.
Right on.
Good times. All right, guys.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Like you all did.
All right. Later.
See ya.
Bye.